This tutorial will create an authentication system using React and Go. So this is the app. It shows you are not logged in, and we can register our user. So let me register one user right now, test. Email will be test@test.com and the password is test. When I register the user, I will redirect to the sign-in form, where here I can write the email that I just created and the password that I just created, and I can go to the main page where I show hide test. So test is the name, and I have a logout button here where I can log out. So this is the authentication that we will build. Also, something to mention is that we will use HttpOnly cookies. So once we log in, we'll generate this cookie that shows that we are logged in. Once we remove it, we are logged out. So if you want to see how to make this page, follow this tutorial. Before building the app, I would like to remind you that my channel is a channel that combines multiple front-end frameworks with multiple back-end frameworks. This tutorial covers React and Go, but if you want to combine React with one of these back-end frameworks or Go with one of these front-end frameworks, go to my channel and you will find the videos there. I combine videos using playlist. Now let's build the apps. Now let's download and install Go. Before I start, make sure to know the basics of Go. So if you are a total beginner, make sure to watch a tutorial about Go basics first. So with that being said, let's get started. Click download Go and download the right version for your machine. Also make sure to download MySQL. Download the MySQL community server and the MySQL workbench. Also, the Go framework that we will be using is Go Fiber, so the Fiber framework. Fiber is a framework inspired by Express.js, so if you know Express.js, it will be easier for you to learn Fiber. So I'll copy this code, and in my project here, which is an empty folder, I'll create a Go file, main.go. I'll call a package main, and I'll create a function, so I'll paste the code actually. So before I run this up, first make sure to get this package. So to get this package, I already got it from my machine, but if you don't have it, you should run this command, go get Go Fiber, and this will install it in your machine. Also make sure to configure your Go path. I will use the version 1 here because the version 2 throws an error for some reason, and we will listen to port 8000. To run this up, run go, run main.go, and Fiber will run on port 8000. Let's go to port 8000, localhost, port 8000, hello world. So this is our first Go app. Now let's connect with our database. So I'll create a connection to my local database here, to MySQL. So the user is root, password is root, and the database is YouTube Go auth. So this is my local database, which is empty. Now let's connect with this database. To connect with the database, we will be using GORM. So let's copy this command here, go get to install GORM. I'll close the server and install this. Also make sure to install also the driver. I won't be using SQLite, but I will be using MySQL. So the driver is MySQL. So with this, we can connect with GORM. So here I will import. So I can have multiple imports here if I use the brackets. And here we need gorm.io/gorm and also gorm.io/driver MySQL. We need those two. Now let's connect with the database. So we have a connection and an error because Go can return multiple variables. Gorm open MySQL open. We need a string inside, which I will add it later. And the other parameter is gorm config. So this is a connection. If an error happens, so if error is not nil, we need to panic, so could not connect to the database. So panic will stop our app if an error happens. Now the connection, for the moment we won't be using it, so I will put an underscore there. And if we don't panic here, it means that the connection is successful. So let's run the app. So we panicked because I forgot to add the DNS here. So let's do that. So my user is root. Then I need to pass a password, which is root. And then I put a net here. And now we need the database. YouTube go auth. So this is our local database connection. Now let's run the app again. And now we can see that Fiber is running. It means that we successfully connected with the database. Now let's restructure the folders. So I'll create a folder here, database, one folder, controllers, and we need the routes. And that's it for the moment. So first let's create the database file. So we need here to add the connection.go. Also the package is database. So usually the package name is the name of the directory. So I'll cut this code. I'll go to connection.go and here I'll create a function. I'll call it connect. And I will paste this code. So we need also to import the driver. So driver MySQL. And we will be using this function here in main.go. So first let's import the database. So to import it, we have to use /database. So we import the directory. And to use the function, we use the package first, connect. And this won't change anything. Now let's add the routes. So I'll create here a Go file, routes. I'll create a function, setup, and inside I will cut this code and I will put it here. So we need the app here. So the app should be passed as a property here. So app is a star fiber app. And let's pass the app here. So we need to import also the routes. And the routes will set up the routes and we will pass the app inside. So we are done with this also. Now we need this function. So this function should be added in the controller. So let's create a Go file. I will call it auth controller. Here I will create a function, hello. And this function, so I will paste this function first and I will name it here, hello. And now let's use this function. Let's go to the routes and here we need to import the controllers, and to call a function we have to call here controllers hello, just like this. And now let's run our app, and this will return the same. So we restructured our files, and now let's create the register function. So I will rename this to register, and in the routes this will be the register function, and this will be a post request to API/register. I'll stop the server for the moment. And now let's go to the register function, and for the moment let's return what the data we will send with the post request. So to get the data from the post request, I'll declare a variable data here, which will be a map string. So this is similar to an array with a string as a key and string as a value. So to parse the data, we have to call a function cBodyParser, and we will pass the data as a reference. This way we will get all the request data that we will send. This returns an error, so we should handle the error. There are two ways to handle the error. One is to add an if condition here. If error is not nil, then we return the error. Or an even shorter way, which is I will add the if condition here, and I will add an semicolon here, and this looks shorter and cleaner. Now we handle the error, we got the data, and now let's return JSON the data to see what we send. So to see the data that we sent, first make sure to install Postman. I already did it, so now let's send a post request to HTTP localhost port 8000 API register. This is a post request, and what we want to send is a row request. So we'll send the name, email, aata.com, and the password, which will be 1. Send. So I didn't start the server. So we returned exactly what we sent. So if I change this to A, this will change. Now we got the data. Now we have to store this data in the database. So let's create a user table in our database. To do that, we have to create a directory now, models. And inside this directory, I'll create a Go file called user. And let's create a struct for the user. So structs are similar to classes in other languages. So type user struct. And this user will have an ID as an unsigned integer, a name as a string, an email as a string, and a password as a string. So this is our user struct. Now let's create a migration to create a table in our database. So let's use the connection for our database here. So I'll get the connection, and to migrate we have an option here, connection auto migrate. So let's import the models, and we need to auto migrate the user. So we add and here models user. With this we can auto migrate the users. Let's refresh here. We don't have any tables. And if I restart the server, we can see a users table was created. So we have this table with all the fields that we need. So we can add also extra configuration. For example, I want this email to be unique. So I add here GORM unique. With this will make the email unique if I restart the server. Refresh, and as we can see, the email was generated unique. So GORM is a pretty powerful library. Now let's create the user here. So first let's create a user variable, which is equal. So first let's import the models here. Which is equal to models user, and we need to pass the name, which is data name, like this. We need to pass the email, which is data email, and we need to pass a password, but the password, we won't set the password directly like this, because we need to hash the password. So let's get a package to hash our password. To search for Go packages, go to go.dev and click Discover Packages. Here we need a package called bcrypt. And this is a package that we want. Copy the link here so we can install it. So go get bcrypt. So I already did it, and now we can add here bcrypt. Now let's use it. So let's create a variable password, and we return also an error, which I won't handle it, is equal to bcrypt generate from password, and we need to pass our password. So data password, but this won't accept a string. So what we need to do here is to convert this to a slice of bytes. So byte like this. And the other parameter is a cost, which I will put 14 here. So this is how we generate a password, and we needed to make it as a byte array. And this new password can be assigned here. The problem is that this password is a byte array also. So how do we convert it? The best way is to make this password also a byte array. Like this. So with this, we can use this hashed password, but also we need to auto-migrate to the database. So for the moment, I will return the user here because every variable needs to be used. And let's restart the server to see the changes here. Actually, we won't see any changes because the byte array it will be still returned as a long text here. So everything will work fine. Now, if we send the request again, like we did before, we will see that the password is hashed, and also we return an ID here, which is 0. So we haven't assigned that ID in the user model. If we don't assign anything, it will initialize it 0 for numbers and empty strings for strings. So now let's insert this user to the database, and we have to get this variable here. So how do we share this variable from this folder to the auth controller? We have to create a global variable right now. var db is a pointer to GORM DB. and we have to assign it with this variable here. So db is equal to the connection. So these two pointers are referencing the same variable, which is the database connection. Now we use this variable in our auth controller. So let's get the database. And to get the variable, we have to use database db. So with this, we got this variable, so the connection, and we have to create now, and we will pass the user as a reference like this. So with this, we can insert this user to the database. Let's try it. Send the request. So this won't create it because I forgot to restart the server. Send it again. And now, as we can see, the ID is 1. So we successfully inserted the user in the database. Let's see. So this is our generated user. So our user is created. Now let's log in with this user. So let's create a function, login. This will have the same parameters. And let's add it also to the routes. So this will post to API/login, and the function is controllers login. So we added this. Now let's make the login work. So we will get the data like the register function. So we will send here an email and a password. So by the email, we want to get the user with that email. So first, let's get a variable user as a models user. And now we need to call the database db where email is equal to question mark, and the email value is data email. And we want to get the first result, and we want to assign it to this user variable. So with this, we will get the user based on the email. If the user ID is equal to 0, this means that we haven't found the user. So we have to set the status to fiber status not found 404 basically, and we have to return here see JSON fiber map message user not found. So if we don't find the user, we return status not found, and we return this message. So fiber map is basically a map with a string and interface, so we can put anything there. If we got the user, then we have to compare the password. So to compare the password, we have another function from bcrypt, which is compare and hash password. So the first parameter is the user password, which is a hashed value, and the second parameter is a byte, so we have to convert it also to bytes of the password that we have. So data password. This returns an error, and if an error happens, so let's make it shorter, so error is not nil here. Then we send the status, so status fiber status bad request, and we return C JSON fiber map message incorrect password. So if we get an error here, it means that the password is not correct. If we go here, it means that we successfully send the right email, we retrieve the user, and we got the right password. So for the moment, I will return see JSON the user. And let's see if this works. So I'll copy this URL, I'll paste it here, and this will be login. Let's send a post request. Let's send a body. So this will be an email at.com, and the password is, what is the password? 1. So for the moment, I'll send the wrong email. So did I restart the server? User not found. So if I put the wrong email, it means the user is not found. If I put the wrong password, incorrect password. If I put the right one, then we retrieve the user. So we successfully retrieve the user here, but we want to return a JWT token. To return a JWT token, we need to install another package, JWT, and this is a package that we want to use. So let's copy the URL and install it here. Go get this package. Already have it, so I can use here on top. And now let's create a JWT token. So first we need the claims variable, which is equal to this package JWT new with claims. So this is a function. We need a method, which we get it from JWT sign-in method HS245. So there are a lot of methods, but I will use this HS256. And the second parameter is a JWT standard claims, and inside we will pass an issuer. The issuer is our user. So what we want to pass here is the user ID. Unfortunately, the user ID is not a string, so this accepts a string. So let's convert the user ID to a string. So first we have to import here strconv, and this can convert this to a string. So we use strconv, we use this function, which I cannot pronounce it, and this accepts an int. So user ID is a uint, so this user ID cannot be sent like this, but we have to convert this to an int. So like this, we converted the user ID to a string. So this is claims, and we need an expiry, expires at. So let's import also time here. And when we want to expire this token, so we have to pass time. Now we need to add time hour times 24. So this means is 1 day. And this needs to be converted to Unix time. So this is our claims. So it will expire after 24 hours. So now let's create the token, and we will get also an error. Is equal to claims sign string, and here we need to pass a byte array of secret. So this secret is a secret key that we need to store it in our app. So I'll create a constant variable here on top, so const secret key, and this secret key should be stored in our app. And now let's handle the error. So if the error is not nil, we return the error, or we return a better message. So I will do it like this. We return internal server error, and the message is could not log in. So we got this. Now let's return the token and let's see it. So let's log in again. So let's restart the server, send a request, and as we can see, this is a token that we generated. Now we don't want to return it like this. We want to store it in cookies. So let's create a cookie is equal to fiber cookie. So to create a cookie, we need a name. I will name it JWT. Value. The value is the token itself. Expires. So let's copy this part here. And this needs not a Unix time. This needs a time like this. And the last one is HTTP only. It's important to add HTTP only here because the frontend cannot access this cookie. So this cookie is meant only to be stored in the frontend and send it, but the frontend doesn't need to access it. And to save it, we need to add here C cookie. So like this as a reference. And that's it. So in the end, we can return fiber map message success. Because we don't want to return the cookie, the frontend will only have the cookie and nothing more. So it won't be able to access it or use it. So this is not enough. We need to add here on main another configuration. So first, our frontend will have course issues. So we need to use app use. We need to use course new. So don't forget also to import this URL here. So course problems are the problems that our backend will run on port 8000 and the frontend will run on different port. So if we don't add this, our browser won't allow the request and it will throw an error. If we add this, then it will ignore that and we will have the request. Still, we need also one configuration, which is course config allow credentials to true. So this is really important, and with this the frontend can get the cookie that we sent and it can send it back. So this is really important if we want to authenticate using HTTP only cookies. So with this, let's test it. We don't have any cookies. And let's send the request. So I forgot again to restart the server. So message is success, but we see here we have a cookie JWT, which is HTTP only. So we need to use this cookie now to retrieve the logged in user. So let's do it now. Function user. I will copy this part and I will add this to the routes. So this is a GET request API/user and controllers user. Let's go to the function now. And what do we want to do with this function? First, we have to get the cookie. So the cookie is equal to C cookies, and we need a name which is JWT. With this, we got the cookie. Now let's retrieve the token. So the token and an error are equal to JWT parse with claims. So this function accepts first the cookie, because the cookie is a string right now. We need the claims. The claims are JWT standard claims, so we need to pass it with a reference. And the third parameter is a function which accepts a token and a JWT token as a reference, and this will return an interface and an error. So inside this function, we need to return the secret key that we generated here. So we have to return a byte array of the secret key, and the error is nil, so we don't want to return an error. And that's it. So if the error is not nil, then we want to return, I'll copy this, paste it here, fiber status unauthorized, and the message is unauthenticated. So if this returns an error, it means that the user is not logged in. And now we got the token. Let's get the claims from the token. So claims are equal to token claims. And let's return them. C JSON claims. So let's test this function. And I will copy this URL, paste it here, and this is a GET request to user. Send the request, and as we can see, we have an expiry time and also an issuer. So this is the ID of our user. So we got the issuer here, and now let's retrieve the ID. But there is a problem. Claims has only a valid function. It doesn't have an issuer function. Why is that the case? Because this claims is an interface that has only a valid function. What do we want is to return a standard claims. And this has our issuer that we want. So how do we convert these claims to a standard claims? To convert it, we have to use dot parentheses, and this will be converted to JWT standard claims. So this is how we convert one type to another. And now these claims will have the issuer that we want. So now let's use this issuer in order to retrieve the user. So let's first create a variable. User is a type of models user. And now let's query the database. Database DB where ID is equal to question mark, and the ID is claims issuer. The first result is our user. And in the end, we want to return the user. Let's see. So let's restart the server. So we got an error. So as we can see, we converted this to a standard claims, but this needs to be a pointer of standard claims. Let's restart again the server. And we successfully retrieved the user. So with this, we don't send anything. we only send the cookies and we retrieve the user. I forgot to mention that if we open a new tab, the cookie will be preserved. That's why we retrieve the user here. So we got the user, and one thing before we log out, I would like to change the format here of the attributes here. So first, I don't want to show the password, and second, I want this to be lowercase. So how do I do this? Let's go to the user. Here we can add some configuration, like how the JSON will return. So this ID will return like this. The name will return like this. Email, we can add it here like this, so this can support multiple configurations. And the password, we put a minus here, which means that we don't want to return the password. With this, let's restart the server, send the request again, and this is our user. So name, email, all lowercase, and the password is not returned. Now let's add the last function, which is logout. Now let's copy this part. And to log out now, we have to remove the cookie that we just created here. So how do we remove cookies? To remove cookies is really strange because we don't actually remove it. Cookie. To remove cookies, we create another cookie and we set the expiry time in the past. So let's create this cookie. The name will be JWT. The value will be an empty string. The expiry, so this is the part that we will remove our cookie. So we set the expiry time to now, and we will add here a time, which is time hour with a minus. So this cookie expired 1 hour ago, and HTTP only is equal to true. So this is how we remove cookies. There is no way to remove the cookies in the browser, just we set the expiry time in the past. So with this, the cookie will be removed. We have to set the cookie and to the response, and let's return a response. So return C JSON fiber map message success, and that's it. So let's add it to the routes. Logout, logout. So with this, we completed the logout function. Let's send, so first let's restart the server. Let's copy the URL here, paste it here. This is logout, and we need to send a post request. So before I delete the cookie, we have the cookie here, so we retrieve the user, and let's send a post request to the logout. Method not allowed, so this is a post request. Let's restart, send it again, and we have message success, and the cookie is removed here. So if we send the request to the user now, we get unauthenticated because we don't have the cookie. If we log in again, we generate another cookie, then we retrieve the user. So this is how authentication works in Golang. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to like and subscribe. Now to install React, make sure you have Node.js installed. If you have Node.js installed, open a terminal and write this command: npx create React app Now we need the name of the app. I will call it React Auth, and I will add template TypeScript. I like to use TypeScript on my projects. Now let's wait till it's completed. So the project is created. Now let's go to the folder and run npm start. React will run on port 3000, localhost port 3000. So this is our running React app. Now I will open the project with my IDE. Also, I will close the terminal here. So let's use it directly in my IDE here. npm start. So nothing has changed. Now I will delete the test file and let's add the template for our project. So let's go to getbootstrap.com. Go to get started first and let's add the bootstrap link to our index.html. I'll add it here. So we added bootstrap. Now let's add a template. So the template that we want is this sign-in form here. Let's inspect or view page source better. And here I will copy the div here, the main div, and I will add it to app.tsx. So I'll paste it here. So I'll keep the class name app here. Now it's complaining because some tags are not closed. I'll make some changes. I'll remove the image here. I will add a closing tag here for the input. I will remove all the labels. I will remove this also and this. So this needs also a closing tag. Also make sure to change class to class name. So these are class here and I change it to class name. My IDE automatically does it. If yours doesn't, make sure to change it. This now will look like this. Still is not looking good. We still have to add the styles here. So go to signin.css here, copy all the code and add it to our app CSS. I'll paste it here, save it. So it looks a little bit better. So let's remove this body and HTML styles here. And now it looks better. So this is not a CSS tutorial. So if you want to learn CSS, you can watch other tutorials. I will cover only the authentication part here. Now here in the form, let's remove this ID here and this autofocus. I want to keep everything really simple. And this won't change anything. So it doesn't. Now I want to add here a menu so we can navigate to different pages. So go again to getbootstrap.com examples. And here I will get a navigation menu. So which one is simplest? I will pick this navbar static. I'll view the page source here and I will copy the navigation here. And I will paste it here on top. So still we need to close the tags that are not closed. So we have a form here with a button. So let's close first the input here. And let's remove this tab index. And I guess we don't have any problems. So don't forget also to change the class with the class name. So this is our menu now. Let's remove some stuff. We don't need this button. So we just need, I will name this home here. Also, I will remove this form. And for the list items here, I'll keep only one, so I will remove the classes here. And this will be login. And I will add another one for the register. So what is missing that is complaining? Maybe I forgot to close the UL here. So it's working fine. Now let's split this into components. So I'll create a directory. Actually, I will call it pages. And the pages that we want is the login .tsx. So TSX is the version of JSX, the TypeScript version of JSX. So I'll create here a component. I have a shortcut for creating a component, so you should write it yourself if you don't have that shortcut. Let's add the HTML here and this login form. So I'll cut this and I will add it to the login TSX. For the moment, I will just add here login. Make sure also to import it because my IDE does it automatically. And I will create a new component called navigation. So components, I'll call it nav. So this is a TSX file also. I'll cut this code and I will paste it. So let's create the component. I'll paste it here. The navigation, so I will add it like this. It doesn't work, so I will import it. So nothing has changed, so I'll close the other tabs. And now let's add other pages and let's add a router so we can move to other pages. So we need a register. So I'll just name it register for the moment. And another page called home. Home here. So let's add them, these pages here, but we cannot replace them because we have to add another package. So let's install it, npm install react router DOM and the TypeScript version, so react router DOM. Every time you install a package, the TypeScript version has @types in front of it. So the package now is installed. Now let's use it. So let's change this login here to browser router. Import also browser router from React Router DOM. And to add the pages, we have to add route. We need to import also route here. And this has a path. So the main page, so just slash will be the home component. So here we'll add home. So import also home here. Slash login will be the login component. And slash register will be the register component. Let's see if it works. So we have home here, so we are the home component. Now we cannot move because we haven't made the links work, but we can go to other pages with login here. We can see the login page, but we see home here. Why do we see home there? is because the path matches the path with the register here. And if we want to distinguish, we have to add here exact. So this is the exact path. And now we don't have home there. Register, also that works. So every component has been rendered. Now let's add the links to the navigation. So we have to change this anchor links right now to links from React Router DOM. So import link from React Router DOM, and this will point to the main page. Let's change also these other parts. So this will point to /login, and this is linked to /register. Let's see, and we get an error. The error is that you should not use links outside a router. So the error is because the navigation is outside the browser router, and we can fix that by moving the browser router here and using the navigation inside. And now everything is correct. We can navigate to other pages. Now let's complete the register, because we have to register first so we can log in. Now let's go to the register, and the form will be similar with a login, and I will paste it here. Please register, and this is submit. The register form has an email, has a password, and also has a a name, just a name. So name, email, and password. I kept it really simple, so this is the register form. Now let's make this form work. First, we have to, for every input, we have to get a variable, and we have to use the state for every variable. So we have to get here the name, set name is equal to use state, and the inside is the default value, which will be an empty string. So this is how we handle state in React. The first is a variable, and the second one is an actual function that changes this variable. So I will add two other states. One is for the email, and this is set email here, and the last one is password, set password. So where do we use these variables? So let's use the functions first, and we will use the functions once we change the input. So we will add here a listener on change, and what will happen when we change the input? We'll fire an event, and we will set the name to event.target.value. So every time we change the name, we will set the name here. We will use the function. Let's do the same for the other inputs. Set email, and this is set password. So we set all the variables. Now we need to submit the form. So we have an onSubmit function here, and let's create a function called submit, and we will use it here. So this function accepts an event, and since we are in TypeScript, we have to define the type of this event, and is a type of synthetic event. So don't forget also to import it. When we submit a form, it usually refreshes the page. So in our case, I will just show it to you. I will console log here the name, the email, and the password. So I'm keeping this short because this is the same as name and the name variable, but since they are the same, I can use it directly like this. And let's see if we console log here. So submit. So we saw console log here, but the page was refreshed, and to prevent that we have to add event.prevent default. And now if we try to log in to register, we console log the actual values. So now we have to use these values and to send it to our backend. So I will cut this and let's send a request to the server using fetch. First I will make this function asynchronous, and to get the response from the server is equal to await fetch. We have to pass here the endpoint, which is HTTP localhost port 8000 /API/register. So this is a GET request, but we have to make it a POST request. We have to add here the method, which is POST. And we have to add also the body. And the body is the JSON that we cut, but we have to make it to a string. So JSON stringify, and we will paste the values. We need also a header, so headers here, and the header that we want to send is content type application JSON, and that's it basically. So the content is equal to await response JSON. And let's log the content here. So let's see what the server does return to us. So I still have the form here. I will try to console log, submit, and we created a user right now. So the response was successful. And what do we want to do once we successfully register a user? We want to redirect to the login. So we'll remove all this and add another state here. So first, to redirect, we have to use redirect. We need to import it also. Redirect from React Router DOM, and we have to return it. Redirect to login. So this is the way we redirect. And as we can see, we are at the login page, but now we cannot go to the register because we automatically redirect. So we have to add a condition here. If I'll create a variable, just like the other variables, this will be redirect, and set redirect is equal to use state, and the default state will be false. So by default, if redirect, we won't redirect because it is false. And now we can stay to the register page. When we want to redirect is when this fetch has finished. So here we will set redirect to true. With this, once we register with another user, test.com, and now I am at the login page. So now let's log in. Go to the login page, and just like the register, I'll get the email and the password here, and I will paste them here. Also, when they change, so on change, we want to set the email to event.target.value, and same for the password. Set password. Now we need to submit the form. On submit here, let's create the submit function. Submit, and this will have an event which is a synthetic event, and event.prevent default here. So everything is correct. Now we need to send a request to the login. So I will copy this, I'll paste it here, and the endpoint, so make this asynchronous. The endpoint now is API/login, and we don't have the name, so that's it. So we need to send the email and the password, but this is not enough. So we can send the credentials and they will be correct, but we need to get the cookie from the server. To get the cookie from the server, we need to add another configuration, another option, which is credentials to true. It's not true, it's include. So with this, when we log in, we will get the cookies from the backend. So let's see it. In the application now, we don't have any cookies, and let's try to log in. 8a.com A. As we can see, we generated a cookie which is HTTP only. So the request was successful. We got the message here, but we don't do anything to set it to the cookies. So we just send the request and nothing more. But since we have these credentials include here, it means that we will get this cookie now in every request. And this is a cookie that we need to use to our home to get the authenticated user. So just like the register right now, when we log in, we want to redirect. So I will copy and paste the same thing, and we want to redirect to the main page here and set redirect to true. So let's try to log in again, and we are at the home page. Here we want to display the user. So let's here we need to call the user, and since we don't have anything, we have to use another function, which is use effect. So here we need to call the backend, and I will do it like this. Since use effect doesn't accept async functions, so this is not allowed, and we have to call the backend. I would like to make my function asynchronous, and I want to do it like this. So this is short for executing this asynchronous function here. So I like it like this, and you can use a different way of calling the backend. And I'll copy this, send it to the home. Now we don't want to send a post request, and this method is get. By default is get, and this will be user here. And that's it basically. Now let's see if our request will get the user. So we get the authenticated user here. We just the request will get the user. We don't send anything, just a get request. And everything is gotten from this cookie here. And let's, before test the cookie, I want to set the name here. So we'll create here a variable name and set name, and I forgot, this is use state. By default is empty string. Here we'll say hi name. So when we get the user here, we'll get a response, and the content is equal to await response.json, and the content in this case is our user. So we'll set the name to content.name. Let's see if this works. Hi A. So this is our user that is authenticated. I will make a question mark here for A. So I'll do it like this. If A is set, we will say hi with the name. Otherwise, we'll say you are not authenticated or login. So we have hi A here. If we remove the cookie, I will clear it. We get you are not logged in because we don't have the cookie, and the response is throwing an error. So we have to log in again. And now we show the name again here. Now the last thing that is left to change is the logout. Here for the login and the register, when we are logged in, we want to show the logout button. But there is a problem here because we get the user here on the home component, and the buttons are in the nav component. So how do we fix this problem? This problem will be fixed if we move this function. I will move it, so I will also get the set names to the app.tsx, because this app here will contain all the other components. So I will paste it here. So we will get the user here, and we will set this user to the home component. The way to do it is by extracting this home component to a function, and we will call it like this, home, and we will set the name is equal to this name. So this name now is a property. We have to access it via props here, and since it is TypeScript, props need to be defined with a type, and this will have a name which is a string. So we added the props here, and what is left is to use the props like this. So props.name and props.name here. So nothing has changed, and also this component doesn't have any errors. So this is how we pass values via the props. So these props will be the same in the nav. So we need to pass the same props. And in the app.tsx, we'll pass here the name as a name here. So if the name is empty, we will show these values. So let's add a condition here. I'll make a menu, and this menu, if the name is empty, not name that but props.name, then the menu will be similar to this one. So by default, if the user is not logged in, we'll display this HTML. If the user is logged in, so we have an else here, then the menu is equal to, I'll still copy this because I need the styles, but I will remove this, and now we need a link to login, but this will be a logout function. And now we can see logout here. Now let's make this logout work. So we have to add here an on-click. And let's create a logout function. So where should I create it? I'll create it here on top. And this function, I will call it here, like this. So we have to call again the backend. So this is a post request also. I'll copy this, paste it here. This is an asynchronous function. This doesn't have to have a synthetic event. We don't have to send the body because we don't want to send data. And the function, the endpoint is logout. And that's it. When we send this request, we will clear our cookie. And since we link to login, when we click logout, we will get redirected also to login. So we will do two things at once. Let's log out, and we are at the login page. If we go there, we still see our name and logout here, but if we refresh, everything will be normal. But why this is happening? Also, when we log in, the same thing happens. So I will see the cookies here, a@a.com here, a. So we got the cookies, but still it says no, you are not logged in. And the only way to show it is by refreshing. So the login and the logout work totally fine. There is still a minor change that we have to make. So when we log out, we have to tell the other components that we are actually logged out. And I will do it the same with this name. And now when we log out, we have to emit an event to the other components. And I will add another prop here. I'll call it set name. And this is a function that returns void and accepts a name as a string. So once we finish the logout here, we will set the name, set name to empty. And that's it. So what did we do right now? So now in our app.tsx, we'll need a function set name, and it will send an empty string. So we want to set the name. So we have another set name function here, set name, and this will work the same. So when we log out, we successfully log out, but we don't reset the name to an empty string here. So that is the solution. So we have to reset the name right here. And when we log in, we have to do the same. So we have to set the name. So let's first test the logout. So now we have the JWT. Let's log out. And now immediately we can see login and register here. So we successfully logged out. But when we log in, still we have the same problem that you are not logged in. So let's emit a set name also from the login. Let's go to the login, and we have to emit the same thing again here, and we have to get the response, and the content is equal to await response.json, and let's emit the event. So the props here, I'll copy it from the navigation, So let's go to the login. We'll have props that this will have a function that will set the name like this. Props here, set name content.name, and that's it. And in the app.tsx we have to use it just like home here. Not name actually. Is it name? Not home, sorry, it's login. The function is set name, and we will call set name. So I made a mistake somewhere, and we have to close it. So let's try to so everything is correct right now. Logout, we don't see here the name. Let's log in. So we didn't redirect, but we see the login and everything works fine. Maybe we should change the order here. Logout a.com, and everything works fine. So we completed our login register, and this is how login works in React. So thank you for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.